You got to pick the right girl, right person who can do that. And then you got to be the right person who can lead. And that's with your frame. Sex is lower, considerably lower in marriages and in cohabitating relationships. First year's worse usually than the second and third. Things usually are going downhill. All right. Statistically speaking, it's only certain relationships that are really anomalies that maintain a high level of sexual attraction and desire where they're having that. That's if you're in a relationship and you've been in a cohabitating or a marital relationship, we could say something that is, pretty serious, especially monogamous relationship for more than a couple years. And I don't mean like a relationship you've been with her for 2 years, but she doesn't live with you. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but it's when you really have intertwined your life resources. If you're in that relationship and the sex is as high as it was in the beginning, and you guys are super satisfied after from 3 to 5 years in, you're an anomaly. Like you're a very, very small percentage. Like we're talking maybe one couple percentages. You know what I mean? So you understand that. So the rest of you guys, like you think you're not going to end up there. If you commit to a woman, you're going to end up there. All right, period. That's your fate. Now, I'm not saying don't commit. I'm saying if you want the commitment, take it and do it. Because if you don't commit, most of the time you will lose her. I don't care what these guys on the internet say. All right. Eventually she'll move on. If you end up doing the commitment, you have to do things differently to make yourself that, 1 to let's say 5% or whatever, where the sex is good, high, and you're getting everything you want out of it. All right. So that's the answer. There's things you have to do, and you have to pick someone, a woman who's capable of doing that with you. Okay. Because not every woman will be able to work through their underlying mammalian brain drives to create the conditions to where they're not using sex as a tool for power over you, where they can surrender to the relationship instead of trying to fight your dominance and leadership, being happy to support your dominance leadership and be a good partner to you, right? To be a good companion to you. Okay. You got to pick the right girl, right person who can do that. And then you got to be the right person who can lead. And that's with your frame. I work with guys for a year on how to do this because it takes time and it takes an entire transformation for how you see the world. And with your relationship with your girl, I recommend, by the way, prior to committing, because that's when her dopamine is going to be high, right? So prior to committing, you want to create these conditions so that her frame and how she sees the world, how she sees relationships matches yours. But you got to change yourself first, though. And just consuming content isn't enough. You have to actually do things out in the world too, because knowing it up here is only one dimension. It has to show up behaviorally. With your behaviors and your emotional reactions, you have to operate differently to be that leadership, alpha male person that doesn't fall to emasculation, that handles her testing appropriately, that's able to build her self-esteem, but not in a narcissistic way where she, steamrolls over you in the relationship and then thinks she's better than you, but where she sees herself as, how she should see herself, which is a capable, good person who's capable of being a partner to you, right? And all these things need to be there. So the solutions, what we're looking at, first solution here, and this is from the guy perspective. Actually, women have solutions that they need to do too. You're going to set the conditions of that, though, as the man. And the first thing is the frame. Okay, so you have to change your mental framework around sex. Sex needs to be seen as a critical component of a happy relationship. Sex needs to be something that you should want to do, But also, yes, as something as you have to do. If you stop wanting to do it, you need to start figuring out why and fixing that. That's you as a guy, that's her as a woman. And if your partner stops wanting to do it, it's not just one or the other. Both of you figure out and start immediately working on where the disconnect is, where what's missing. Because if you're not having frequent and we'll say good or happy, intense sexual relationship, if you're not having a sexual relationship that's, you know, very, let's say, frequent and rewarding, you are not going to have the love chemicals and the bonding chemicals that you'll need to have. It won't. You won't have it. Okay. And so she's got to see sex as something you share. She's got to see that the power that she has in sex is in being very good to you with that and being good to herself and having intense experiences, blowing your mind, frequently giving you satisfaction orgasms. She needs to see that as the place her power lies. If she sees as withholding sex as a means, as a tool for power and manipulation, then that's not, she's seeing sex as something she uses. So sex is something we share, not something we use. So if she is, seeing like I'm going to withhold or reward with sex, she's using sex then as a tool. Sex is not a tool. Sex is something you share, right? And that's the frame that needs to change. And the power in sex is in sharing it in a way that is, makes your partner happy and in a way that's frequent. That's where the power of sex is. Okay. That framework, mental framework and model needs to be instilled into her schemas. And you need to have that framework. Okay. And be consciously aware.
There was a caveman named Grok who had eyes for the lovely Neela. Neela was the most beautiful cave woman in the tribe, with her sparkling eyes, infectious laughter, and fat booty. But Grok wasn't the only one smitten by her. All the Chads and Tyrones of the land wanted her too. He tried different ways to attract her, showing off his prowess with a spear, doing favors, bringing gifts, and even serenading her under the moonlit sky. But Neela never seemed to return his affections. She was always kind to Grok, but Grok was only 5'10", and Neela only had eyes for the 6-foot-tall Chads, or so he thought. Determined more than ever, Grok decided to do a pickup artist boot camp in a faraway land. He built up his confidence and learned how to talk to hundreds of cave Stacys, even winning the affection of a few. But when Grok came home to use his newfound skills on Neela, he could sense that same disinterest in her eyes. He could get average Stacys to want to bear his children, but could not win over Neela, or any cave woman as beautiful as she. The pickup artistes told Grok it's a numbers game, and that he had to sleep with thousands of drunk Stacys to get a beauty like Neela. Confused, Grok went to the secret societies of different color pills for advice. But all they could offer were different chants of, just next her bro, and she only bangs Chads, over and over again. If only I could learn real seduction skills to make Neela fall in love with me, Grok thought. Neela went on to live happily ever after, having babies with a man named Og. Og had secretly learned sexpionage skills. Og was 5'5". The problem with pickup courses today is that they rely on the numbers game. You talk to hundreds of girls and finally a chick wants to sleep with you. And usually these aren't the women of your dreams. Sexpionage is my new course that will train you how to actually seduce the women that you want. Not just get dates with women who you aren't that excited about. You will learn deep persuasion skills borrowed from the elite corners of the espionage world that will train you how to persuade anyone and how to seduce anyone, from the woman you just met to your wife or girlfriend. Enrollment opens April 22nd and closes on the 26th. Click the link and don't miss this opportunity. It's the only one you'll get this year.
Another part of framework is accountability. Once again, she is in control of the switch that goes on or off for her. Believe it or not. Now, emotions and neurochemicals and conditions drive that, but she can decide, well, you know what? I'm sexually open or sexually closed. I talk about that in a Seduction Matrix. I talked about that like a couple years ago. All right, that there's that switch. It's sexually open, sexually closed, and she has some degree or quite a bit of degree of control over that. And there needs to be accountability when women sit there and go, well, he's not doing enough, and he's this, he's that. He talked mean to me. He's he's just using me for sex, but then he's not going to give me the things that I want if I don't, if I choose not to have sex with him. Like, this is not the language of a woman who's taking any accountability for herself. So accountability is critical, and a lot of guys will jump in right now and say in comments and in chat and be like, women are not accountable, blah, blah. I'm not talking about holding women accountable in general. Like, I'm just talking about a mental framework of accountability in your relationship where she understands she's responsible for herself and her behavior, and you are responsible for yours. There's no blame shifting. Okay. And that's to include, she is responsible for sexual frequency and creating desire in you and wanting to make you happy, right? That's something she's responsible for. It's not a condition, okay, of what you do. It's not something she's, you have to do A in order for her to do B. No, she is with you. She is responsible for that. And if she doesn't want to, then she is responsible for that too. And she has to figure it out. All right. Now, maybe, some of that is you're not that sexually skilled and you need to work on your skills, or there's this and that, the other. Yeah, there might be things you need to do to help that along, but she needs to be the one to take responsibility for it. Because look, we're not talking about sex has been bad the whole relationship. Sex was fine prior to her getting all the rewards and the prizes, huh? Right? She was eagerly having sex prior to getting all the prizes. So don't listen to her bullshit when she turns around and says, well, I don't know, you're not as exciting for me now. Well, I was exciting 3 years ago. Why am I not exciting now? Right? That should be your question to yourself. And the reason why is because she's bullshitting herself and she's lying. And that's what I mean by accountability. Okay. So, it's not your skill. Okay. It's not these other things. She has to be, all of a sudden, well, I have all these childhood traumas around sex and blah, blah. Really? Well, her childhood trauma didn't step in when she was banging, the bad boys and the chads when she was younger. Her childhood trauma didn't step in the beginning of your relationship. Now, all of a sudden, she has trauma a couple of years after she's gotten the prizes and the rewards. She's got trauma now. Like, no, don't listen to it. It's all bullshit. And she's bullshitting and lying. She's lying to herself too. Confidence in herself, outcomes in you. You don't want a woman. There's an idea of toxic game where we bring a woman's confidence down. You don't want that. Okay. There's false confidence and ego protection, arrogance. We don't want arrogance in a woman. Arrogance is an absolute killer of attraction, of a woman being attractive, and a killer of relationships. But you don't want her to be low confidence. A high confident woman, she's confident in her decisions of picking you. She's confident in her abilities to handle a problem if something doesn't go well. She's confident, therefore, on outcomes, because if the outcome is bad, she has confidence in herself that, okay, I can weather the storm. If the outcome is good, then great. But if it's not good, she is confident in herself. And then she's confident in you because she trusts you. You want to build and support confidence in those three areas: herself and her decisions and her abilities, outcomes in general, as well as her ability and your ability as companions to weather those storms, and also her confidence in you and her trust in you. When she has confidence and trust, sex is a lot easier and a lot more frequent for that to happen, because part of the reason why she's using it for power is a lack of trust in one of these three areas. All right. So that's a component. It's not the only thing, because if I just say, oh, women just need to, if they're confident in themselves, then the sex will be there. Oh, that's actually bullshit, because a lot of women are confident in themselves and also see them as hypergamously better than their men, see themselves in charge, and all of that confidence is there and they love it. They're drunk on that confidence. And that man that she's with is effectively a slave. She's letting him lead. I'll let you lead today, honey. Like, that's not the kind of confidence. So confidence by itself is not what I mean. Okay. Because there's a certain type of ego protecting confidence. Good. So confidence by itself makes arrogant women. Okay. So we want also the hypergamous understanding of it's the confidence in you. The confidence outcomes has to be there along with herself, not this empowered woman crap where I can do anything. I'm this, I'm that, I'm in charge. That's not going to make for a great sexual relationship. In fact, that will completely dry your bedroom up. She needs to be confident in herself, but also confident in outcomes in general, right? Because she trusts also not just herself, but she trusts you. She has to be more confident, in fact, in you than she is in herself. But the part of herself is being confident in her choice to pick you, right? And so that's why that's so important.